Hello and welcome to The Main Straight, the official F1 in Schools podcast, hosted by yours truly, Mr. Tom Deacon. That's me speaking right now. Guys, I hope you're well and that you've enjoyed all of the episodes that we've put out so far. We've had some fantastic guests, I think you'll agree. And I can tell you, looking at the schedule, there are some brilliant guests to come on the podcast very shortly. So stay tuned for that. Don't forget to like and subscribe the podcast. That really helps us and the team. So, what about today's episode? And I have to say, I'm incredibly excited about this one because we are speaking to Sven Smets, sporting director at one of the world's leading Formula One teams, Williams Racing. Now, Sven has got such an illustrious career history that spans 3 decades and encompasses everything from a role as a co-driver in rallying to holding the position of team manager at Citroën Racing and motorsport director at Volkswagen Motorsport. Sven has experience across almost every aspect of the sport, now responsible for the sporting governance and representation of Williams Racing Team. Sven is instrumental in supporting the drivers as well as ensuring that the optimal culture, resources and environment are in place to achieve success. So if anyone's going to have some brilliant advice for you guys ready to take on F1 in schools, well, I can think of no better person. So this is hopefully going to be an illuminating discussion with Sven and an invaluable advice for you guys that you can achieve the dreams that you want to and maybe end up in a role in F1 in the future. Right, without further ado, let's get him on the podcast right now. Let's welcome Sven.
Yeah, good morning, Tom.
Well, listen, an absolute pleasure to have you on this podcast, and I'm hoping you can bring some of that expertise that you definitely have. I want to take it back, if I can, for your career path from rally co-driver to sporting director at Williams Racing. Tell us a little bit more about that where that journey started and how it came to be.
Well, I was co-driving as an amateur in the national championship in Belgium, and then in '95 I was lucky to sit next to a very young Belgian talent and sign my first works contract, and that went then on until 2005. I switched driver once in the middle, and then to 2005. Unfortunately, my driver wanted to sign for a team where I didn't really have the hopes in. And so we parted ways, and I was lucky that the team I was driving for, which was Citroën Racing at the time, needed somebody to lead up their academy. And at that time, that was, for example, Chris Meek, which probably some people know, and Danny Sordo, and there was a very young Frenchman called Sébastien Ogier. And so I started to work in the team as a junior team manager, it was called at the time. And from there on, I've made a career in teams, actually never looked back to the co-driver seat, although I had a few times the opportunity to go back co-driving. But I really liked it to work in a team. And at that time, I think there was about 350 people at Citroën, and became part of it, became team manager there. Then moved with OJ to Volkswagen, stayed 10 years at Volkswagen, had 2 years with Peugeot in Le Mans, because in 2009 I was in Le Mans. And then in 21, Jos Capito, who I worked for 6 or 7 years before, called me and said, look, we're making a role of sporting director at Williams Racing. Are you interested? And I looked to it, and of course, the sporting part, the Formula One regulations were very new for me. But there was also the project to head up the academy, and that's actually what was a little bit what I started with when I came out of the co-driver seat, and that role in general really spoke to me, and I said yes, and that made me move from Volkswagen in 21 to Williams Racing.
Yeah, it's an intriguing journey, Sven. There's lots of things I want to pick apart there. For example, when you had that, it wasn't your decision, when things in your career path didn't go the way you necessarily planned, how did you adapt? Is it about saying yes to opportunities, or is it about whether you really have that passion to do that, or how does that work? What was the thought process during that time?
The thought process is always that you need to be fully committed to the new role that is being offered to you. I've had some other roles being offered where I did say no for various reasons, Sometimes I didn't really believe in the project, or it was maybe at the time where you're alive because you have young children, it didn't work. But yeah, I mean, once the role is there, you talk to the people, and this was a little bit also why I came to Williams, because Jos and the board explained me that we were on a long-term journey to build Williams back up, to start to be in the points, to start to be on podiums, to win Grand Prix, and to try to win a championship again. And it's that journey, that plan that was in place, that Dalton put in place, that really spoke to me, because I did it once at Volkswagen. We started with nothing and became WRC champions, and created and built a team up to in a similar journey as where we are here in Williams. And we were lucky to fast track it a little bit. The 7-year plan became a 2-year plan when we won our first championship. I know in Formula One it probably will take a little bit longer, but yeah, it's that belief in what has been put in front of you, and for the same reason, you also sometimes maybe should say no and be happy where you are, because there is still a lot you can learn in the role where you're in, and there's a lot that you can bring to the team working in the role you're actually in. So it's a mixture of taking the right opportunities for yourself, and then also not be afraid if there is a move involved, because I moved 4 times for my job now all over Europe and now into the UK. That's part of it, and then you need to make the most of it. And of course, the older you get and you have a partner, maybe children, those decisions become harder, because leaving a country where everybody's happy just because you want to go and do something else needs a strong family bond. But I've been lucky that my wife, for the moment, hasn't said no to anything yet. Although she said now that she's not moving anymore. If I want to go and work somewhere else than in the UK, I'll probably be commuting to that place. But yeah, that's all part of it. And then just believe in yourself. I think that's one of the big key issues if you move jobs, because every time moving means new things. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like change. But I think change you can put in something exciting, something that you really want to do. And so most of the time I have gone for the opportunities when I thought that was a great opportunity.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing that, Sven. I mean, it's a fantastic career. And I imagine a lot of the competitors in the F1 in schools will be in a school. There won't be too much moving of teams. Otherwise, that would be absolute chaos in that school. However...
Yeah, we haven't seen that yet, actually. I mean, I'm looking forward to go this year to the finals and see actually there is transfers between schools of units. That will be something.
Yeah. Well, sometimes what happens, it tends to be a student can no longer attend, and then they have to fill that job in new roles within the team. So you have teammates leave. But you were actually at the Aramco F1 in Schools 2023 World Finals in Singapore last year. You saw many of the teams work in person at the event. What impressed you the most about their work and car designs and just the teams in general?
Well, first of all, the passion for it. I mean, I was very impressed how every school and every person or every team I talked with is so full of passion and so dedicated to be in that last top 3 and to go home with some prizes. I was also very impressed that they see this as their main project of their school year, which is quite impressive, because I can imagine that they have some other things to do too. And of course, talking to them, they all have that dream to be able to come into F1 one day as an engineer or in a different role. And it's just really nice to have, I don't know how many there were at the end in total, but everybody you talk to wants to come into F1. And it's nice to see that a sport creates so much passion and so much people willing to come into this sport.
Yeah, so many do. And I guess that question is, how easy is that for them to do? You mentioned about that passion and dedication. Are those the 2 things that they would need to get into the world of motorsport? I mean, you've had 3 decades in motorsport. Are those attributes what is going to help them the most?
Well, the good thing is that there is also some people now and again leaving the sport, which creates places.
Not many, Sven.
No, I know that this is true, but now with the 24 calendar, maybe now and again there is people leaving the sports, and we are in big competition with other engineering other engineering jobs such as aerospace. It's just believing in yourself. It's getting your degree in whatever you want to do, mechanical or aerospace engineer, and then just as soon as there is jobs coming up or becoming part of the graduate or industrial placement program, is taking that opportunity and come over. I mean, of course, there was lots of schools from Australia and from all around the world, and the pinnacle of F1 is in the UK and let's say Europe. So, and there is 10 teams, and if you can say there was, I don't know, 400 or 500 engineers in every team, then you know how many places there are in the world to work in an F1 team. But what I could also advise is, if there is not straight away a place on any of the student programs for an F1 team, don't hesitate to go, for example, to a team that is operating, or a manufacturer that is operating in WEC. I mean, yesterday I met Logan's performance engineer, who is new, and he's coming from Toyota. He was there for 3 years, and we've taken him from not let's say an F1 team. So there is no if you can't get in, just try and go and do motorsport somewhere else, because everything you learn will actually just help and build that knowledge that you will need when you come here. So if it doesn't really work straight away in F1, I would always say go and do some motorsport somewhere else.
That's a fantastic piece of advice there, and that's good to hear about Logan. And I guess that if you do come from a different background, you come with different ideas which can help the team out, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, different ideas, different cultures. You bring something unique to the sport, to the team, and we have now many people that actually were not in another team, but have come from lower divisions, even F2. I mean, Gaetan, who is now Logan's principal race engineer, comes from ART and did DTM and F2, GP2 at the time. And came here as a race engineer. So there is plenty of roads to get into F1. So don't if it's not working straight away because the student programs are full, or you were a little bit late, don't hesitate. There is plenty of other jobs in motorsport, and all that knowledge that you build up will only help you.
Staying with that topic and what Williams Racing does, because yourself and the whole team have been long-time supporters of F1 in schools, with the Williams Engineering Academy providing internships to many of the students, and a number of alumni actually still work there within the ranks. Why is the team so passionate about the competition? Is it because of your sort of coaching background and wanting to help develop people?
Well, there is this, but of course we also have to admit that the students of today and the students of tomorrow are the engineering and the Formula One stars of the future. I mean, I am 51. I'm working together with a person in my department who is 58. There comes a day, that we need replacements, and one success of a team to be successful, and to be successful many years in a row, and always trying to be at that top of pinnacle, is that you have very good succession plans in place. And we don't need to be afraid to put people in place and to guide them and to nudge them to take over one day your own job. That is the key of success for a team to stay successful. And we have seen many times that if you don't do that as a team at a certain point, it will stop. So being at F1 schools, finding the bright talents and the people that are willing and have that passion to work in motorsports and in F1 is very part of Williams' DNA.
I've got a few more questions for you, Sven, and also 51. It's the new 40. Don't worry about it. It's you go nowhere. You don't have to go anywhere, Sven. Yeah. And I often think about my job as well with F1 in schools. At some point, they'll get another glasses wearing presenter at some point. I would love to know, what does a day in a life look like for a sports director? As we currently record this, Williams is unveiling this year's car, the 2024 car in New York. There's excitement about a brand new season happening. So what is it like in the day in the life of a sporting director? And what are your favorite parts of that role that you do?
Well, I mean, when we come to a sporting director role, I think they're all a little bit different in every team. For example, so I have the academy under me, and I know in some other teams that, for example, like when James was at Mercedes, that sat under James, who was strategy director. So I have the academy. I also have Heritage for myself, and then I have, of course, the race team, and let's say the sporting part, which is the regulations FIA that I do together with the team manager. So a day normally starts with a few meetings because we're in the full car build plan now. So we have every morning a meeting about how car build is going, because the freight is leaving on the 16th for the test in Bahrain. So that's normally how the morning starts. Then I have normally with the academy team a meeting every other day to go through what our drivers are doing. We have the F2 drivers starting the test in Bahrain in the weekend. We have 2 people in karting in the weekend. We have Leah Block doing a race of the Spanish Winter Cup. So we have people following that. And then, of course, setting their plans in place for the next 2 weeks, because we also see the academy as part of Williams' DNA to bring young, talented drivers into F1. And then in the afternoon, normally, I see my heritage director, and we go through what's happening in that week there. And yesterday I met a client who wants to buy an F1 car. So there is a huge variety of topics coming across my desk every day. But that's what makes it interesting. And we're also working on having our own academy test team so that we can give those young drivers a first taste of an F1 car. And we want to use that team as, again, an engineering school for our young engineers that are now maybe only coming to one test a year, and for the rest are working in the ops room. So yeah, there is still lots to do. It's all part of our building way to bring Williams back to the front.
I did see an interview with your good self, Sven. I think it was recorded last year in the build-up to the 2023 season, and you said you had about 14 days off holiday, and that was it. I'm curious to know, coming into the 2024 season, have you managed to eke out any more holiday?
Yes, we had the winter shutdown, which is another 9 days that adds to the 14 we have in summer. So Christmas was, although it eats in car build program, but you need to plan around it, was a very nice period this time of year, because we had the same as in summer. So we can't send emails, we can't receive emails, the phone can't ring, which made the Christmas period very quiet. Last year we had just people not working on the 25th and the 26th and the 1st. All the rest, we had people in for day, evening, and night shift. And of course, then now and again, you come into the factory and make sure everything's working. Well, this year it wasn't allowed. So yes, I managed to squeeze 9 more days in. So we're up to about 23, 24.
Yeah. I mean, because I speak to so many of the F1 school students and the competitors, and they always say to me, every moment they have, weekends, holidays, they're working on the project. But I guess you come back from those breaks, recharge, ready to go. So that is really important that they get that balance, right? To know when to work hard and finish and accomplish tasks, but also to just refresh. Then you can come back with new ideas to challenges.
Yeah, I mean, you really need to take those moments and really sign out your brain, because otherwise, I think Formula One never stops. And somebody told me when I took the job, and I have to admit he was absolutely right, because otherwise there is so much to do, so much ideas. You have so many people. We're now nearly up to 950, I think. There is ideas generated every day in every corner of the factory, so you could go and explore every day something new if you wanted to. But yeah, you need to recharge. Otherwise, I think after a few years, you would probably leave the sport, because it is so full on. And this year, of course, with our last race being in the middle of December, 1.5 weeks before Christmas, the time to turn everything around. And I mean, I think when we leave the test in Abu Dhabi, I believe the first sea freight is already leaving again for Australia. So yeah, it just doesn't stop anymore now. But it is part of of F1, and if you like this, then that's what has to be done. James yesterday said, when I came back, he was talking to partners, because we had a partner evening, and he said there was a question about was he really happy that the season was over? And James said, yeah, when I came back from Abu Dhabi, I couldn't hear a Formula One car anymore because the season had been so hard. But then come Christmas, that was all fine. Come New Year, you're actually already anxious to see, you can't wait to see the next car on track. So today, everybody is just really keen to go to Bahrain and have the car for the first time and drive out of the garage. So yeah, it lasts probably for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then
then back in again. Well,
yeah,
well, us F1 fans cannot wait for Bahrain. I can tell you that. You mentioned earlier about the successes you had at Volkswagen, and I'm trying to compare that to the F1 in schools, where they might have had some success, and then you hit moments where you don't have that success. Are there any, I guess I would call them coping mechanisms or strategies you have to stay calm and able to approach it and not lose faith in those moments?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some big career dips at some points, and you need to overcome them. You need to learn from them, why they happened, analyze. Sometimes it's also a little bit out of your control. Then also don't start to blame yourself. But if, for example, you would have been part or you made a mistake, then take full accountability for that mistake, learn from it, and turn the page. I mean, it's not because one small war is lost that you've lost the whole war. You need to keep believing in yourself and learn from that experience, because even in moments where it's hard, there is always something that you can pick up that will help you to overcome a situation that maybe happens again a few years later. And I mean, it's very hard. I mean, I had to close a motorsport factory with 280 people and go and stand in front of them and tell them that it was over and that we were going to close the company. But it made me, although it was really hard to do that at that time, and it took me a few weeks to recover from it because I had been part of it for 10 years, I learned a lot from it. Because there is always something to learn. Maybe you won't see it at that moment, but when you reflect back, it will have made you stronger in your journey to where you want to go.
Well, thank you so much, Sven. I've taken up enough of your time when you've mentioned about the freight several times, and I think to myself, and also, could you please reply to my email about buying an F1 car?
We'll do that.
I'm slightly implying that I might be able to afford one. That's never going to happen, but that sounds fascinating. That way, just to leave us out on a good note. And I wish you all the best of successes for this coming season, as I'm sure everybody does. But is there just a final thought for anyone listening to get into the world of F1 or just in daily challenges that they face within their teams? Is there one nugget advice that you'd like to leave us on?
If I will be honest, I would always say just don't give up. I mean, it doesn't mean because you're not first this year that you can't be first next year. I know the rule change that came in for 23 put a lot of people a little bit on the wrong path, and their cars were heavier than what they had expected. But that doesn't mean that you can rectify that this year. So don't give up. There is always solutions for problems, which is quite nice. And just purchase your dream. If you want to be in F1, and if you really want it, then one day you will be.
Sven, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to the season and best of luck.
Yes, thank you.